friend loaned me a CD. The CD was by Green Day, and the name of the CD was called Dookie. As you can tell, it was very intellectually stimulating. There's actually a song on there called Longview, where Billy Joe laments the fact that he's got no motivation, laments that his mom tells him he should get a job, but she doesn't even like her job, so why would he even get a job? Talks about a bunch of other stuff, watching TV, twiddling his thumbs. Basically, what Billy Joe is describing is a person who, in terms of psychology, isn't fully functioning, or, well, his psychological well-being isn't doing well. So if anybody's been depressed, you know you can eat well, you can actually even go to the gym, but you have no real energy to do anything. You don't want to get out of bed, you have to kind of force yourself. There's no release of endorphins when you do go to the gym, at least from my personal experience. You just don't feel better. And why is that? Because you're not fully functioning at that point. Somebody who's fully functioning understands their psychological needs, understands how to fulfill those psychological needs, and then from there they're able to draw motivation in their task based on that. So understanding motivation, because motivation is essentially the key cog to whatever task you want to accomplish or whatever you want to do, whatever's been tasked to you, let's say by your boss, the motivation is going to decide how good of a job you do and how you feel after the job is completed. Okay, so when we're talking about motivation, there's different levels. The first level is the highest level of motivation you can feel, and this is autonomous in nature. This comes from intrinsic values and intrinsic things you want to do that are truly yours and a representation of you, your holistic self, and certain external, internalized values. For example, self-love. That's something that I am internalizing as a value. That wasn't something that I had created as a holistic sense of self. So as you internalize that, you're motivated. You receive the highest levels of energy, and you receive the highest ability to perform. The next level is extrinsic in where the source of the motivation comes from. And this has to do with external and interjected regulations. For example, if you're at work, a lot of times the activities or the goals that we are told we need to do or perform at work fall under this category. But there is a catch. If you have a leader who knows how to tie your personal goals with the goals of the company, you can create a psychological framing of a task to where it's no longer extrinsic in value, but it falls under the first category, where it's intrinsic because it aligns with your goals. So you in then turn would give your best effort and in turn give better work. Whereas if we're just focusing on you need to perform task A so that we can get result B, then you're not going to give your best work. You're going to give okay, but not your best. The last area is just amotivation or lack of complete interest. And this usually happens when you're depressed, things that you like, you're less motivated, things that you don't want to accomplish, you don't even want to get out of bed. So we have to say that you're fully functioning doesn't mean you're going to avoid the other two types of motivation. It just means that you know what you do well, you know what motivates you, you know your values, and you gear your goals and you gear your activities towards fulfilling those values. That's the difference. Now, if we're measuring motivation in terms of energy and in terms of feeling, psychologists call this vitality. Okay? So for vitality to exist, it can be independent of your nutrition or your health because it's a psychological effect. You feel energized, you feel vitalized after an activity. Let's take that same physical activity of going to the gym, right? If that goal is autonomous, if that goal is an internalized behavior, then I can go and have a killer workout. And let's say I push myself to the point where I puke, right? Let's say I have a leg day so hard, I'm squatting so hard that I puke, okay? Puking feels physically terrible. But because I'm autonomously motivated, I still feel vitality, I still feel vigorous, I still feel energized after my workout, despite the fact that I have exerted all my forces into the workout. You see, that's the difference. We think of energy in terms of health, and we think of energy in terms of how good of fitness you are, and that's one part of it. The other part is, are we fulfilling our psychological needs? And is the task that I am taking upon myself, does that fulfill those needs? And if it doesn't, can I reframe it in a way that it will fulfill those needs? So if we look at motivation, if you're lacking motivation, if you're running into issues where you're not completing your goals because you're losing motivation eventually, then you lose focus, and then you lose attention, and then you stop doing your best. And when we don't do our best, we feel less self-efficacious. When we don't feel self-efficacious, we don't want to do something, which is all a cycle. It's all related. And this is something we go through daily, on a daily basis. Okay? It's a cycle that you go through every day. Is the motivation there or is it not? Is the vitality there or is it not? Do you know how to fulfill your psychological needs? And do your goals reflect your needs being fulfilled? If your goals reflect that, you will have motivation. If you have motivation, you will have energy. If you have energy, you will put forth your best effort. You put forth your best effort, you will accomplish the goal, or you will come close to accomplishing the goal, to where next time you embark upon doing it, you can improve upon it and you feel better, and then you accomplish it. See the difference? It comes with what's the source of the motivation? And before you can understand the source of the motivation, you have to understand yourself. Everything always comes back to self-awareness. Everything. Whether it's mindfulness, emotional intelligence, motivation, goal setting, self-awareness. If I understand my values, because I've articulated those values, if I've checked those values against a holistic self-representation, and it is who I am, and it is internalized, then I will know how to create motivation. I will know how to create energy. I will know how to create vitality in my life. Now, if the goal I'm trying to accomplish doesn't fall into that, let's say it's extrinsic, I'm going to have very minimal motivation. I'll have some motivation. It'll eventually die off, because guess what? Anything worth doing is not easy, okay? So a task that's difficult is more psychologically rewarding, but you're not going to accomplish it without motivation, and you're not going to have the right motivation until you understand if the task is authentically yours, intrinsic in nature, and something you want to pursue. Simple yet complex, as is most human psychological quandaries. So if you want to understand motivation a little further, comment below, like, subscribe, all of that fun stuff, or email me, KJ@KentCoach. Go to the website, www.KentCoach.com. Let me know how I can help. Motivation doesn't have to be complicated. Goals don't have to be complicated. We complicate things. And just remember, any resistance towards change, especially if that change is a positive change and it's pushing you towards a better outcome, any resistance towards change is just your mind saying, this is new. We don't want to do it. A lot of times we get addicted to negative outcomes. We get addicted to suffering almost. We repeat the same behaviors that induce the same suffering. So when that suffering and a behavior that's going to eliminate that comes into our psyche, our subconscious doesn't know how to handle it because it's new, it's different. It's going to create a different result, which is different for us. And so we don't know if we want to accept that result because there's uncertainty now. And our brain loves certainty. Our brain loves deciding what's the cause and effect. We love being objective. We love making sure everything's black and white, cause and effect, right? Once you overcome that, you realize that life is subjective. You realize that everything, every day differs day to day. And you have to understand yourself. You have to understand yourself more than anybody else. And if your internal self is resistant towards change, you might want to ask yourself, am I addicted to suffering?